What's going on, you guys? Thank you guys so much for clicking back onto my channel. Today I want to take some time to talk about if you're a beginner and you want to get into squat, benching, and deadlifting, but maybe you feel a little bit intimidated, you're not really sure where to start, you see a bunch of people squatting heavy shit, benching and deadlifting heavy shit, that it kind of intimidates you and turns you away from the idea of it. Well, I'm here to tell you that everybody started somewhere. Nobody just jumped into the squat rack and threw on 35s on each side and started squatting. Nobody just went straight to the bench press and just started benching and knowing what to do. Everybody started somewhere. So today I just kind of want to go over some fundamental tools, some exercise variations that you can utilize, implement into your training program that are going to help you progress with the squat, bench, and deadlift so that one day you can too be squatting, benching, and deadlifting some heavy shit. So firstly, let's start off with the squat. Before you jump right into the squat rack, let's talk about some exercise variations that you can do to implement into your program before you jump right into the squat rack. When I first started to squat, I honestly would just grab some dumbbells and start squatting. I'm not going to get into a tutorial of how to actually do the squat, bench, and deadlift. There are many tutorials out there. I have some as well, so I will link them down below if you're not sure even how to do a squat, bench, or deadlift. I will link them down below for you guys to refer to. So this is just some variations that you can implement, assuming that you know roughly how to actually do the movement. So I really found that when you hold the dumbbells to your side, it doesn't have the weight over your center of gravity because you want the weight to be over the center of your foot. So I actually really like to do a goblet squat. So that's what you'll see right here. It's just where you're holding the dumbbell up to your chin and then you're just performing the squat. So those are two really good variations. Another one is Bulgarian split squat. For Bulgarian split squats, you just want to hold the dumbbells on both sides, and by doing single leg movements like this, you're going to help ensure that both sides are equal. You're always going to have one side that's stronger than the other, but it'll really help even things out if you find you have a more stronger side or a more weaker side. So once you've implemented these into your training program and you feel like you're progressing, once you finally have built up the confidence, you're ready to step over to the squat rack. Now, if you are by yourself, you don't have a training partner there who is there to help you, there to spot you, make sure that everything is on point, there are things that you can do within the squat rack to ensure that you're actually going to squat safely. Before you squat completely on your own, I recommend actually having a bench there for you to squat. Yeah, when you go to squat down, you're not actually going to be reaching depth. Depth is when your hip bones are actually below your knees, and as you can see, my hip bones are in line with my knees, so it's just above depth. But it's going to help give you that confidence to be able to balance the barbell on your back, because it's a little intimidating at first, but just remember it's only 45 pounds. So when you actually go to squat, you want to make sure that everything is nice and even, making sure that your grip lines up completely even on the barbell and that the barbell is even on your neck when you go to put the barbell on your neck. This will really help ensure that you're able to balance out that giant ass barbell when you go to squat. Another thing that you can utilize when you are squatting by yourself is by bringing the supporters up. As you can see, the supporters here are super high. So say that you're squatting a good amount of weight and you're not too confident that you're going to be able to stand back up. As you'll see right here, all you have to do is just let the barbell roll back onto the supporters, and it's going to make a loud noise, but at least you're being safe. There have been many people who have utilized these. There are many people who have failed during a squat. Even the big guys, the big juice monkeys who are squatting 4 plates, sometimes they can't push it back up, and all you have to do is just let it roll off your back and fall onto the supporters. So that's probably the safest method that I would recommend if you are squatting by yourself. And again, just taking your time, progressing over time, making sure that you're adding just a little bit of weight week to week, so make sure that you are tracking to ensure that you're actually progressing. So that about does it for the squats. All right, let's move on to bench. First exercise exercise that I recommend utilizing into your program are simply just some flat bench dumbbell press. This is a great variation and it's just going to allow you to practice the range of motion. So for this one, because you're holding dumbbells and as you start to go up in weight, I recommend that you roll backwards when you go to lie down. And what I mean by this is basically bringing your knees up and having your back in flexion so that you roll backwards. If you just simply sit back with your feet planted, this is going to put a lot of tension on your lower back, which is going to make it very difficult to go up in weight. So I like to roll backwards, and then once you're done, you're set. Same thing when you go to sit back up. I'll bring my knees up towards my chest and roll myself forward, and this just takes the tension off of your lower back and it's going to allow you to progress quicker so that you can lift heavier and lift more efficiently. Another exercise that I really like to do to help you increase your bench are push-ups. Having functional strength is very important. So with push-ups, even if you can't do regular push-ups, doing girl push-ups is totally fine. It's so basic, it's so simple, but make sure that when you're doing push-ups, you're actually retracting your scapula and you are not flaring your elbows. So with how your hand placement is and how you bend your arms during a push-up is very similar to how you will be doing the bench press. Last variation to help you improve your bench press, this one seems super abnormal and not many people would guess this. It's a wide grip cable row. So I like to use the lat pull down bar and use it on the seated cable row machine. So your hand placement is going to be identical to how you are performing the bench press. The reason why this exercise is so important when it comes to doing bench press is because when you actually do the bench press, you should be feeling it a lot in your back as well as your chest. So in order to actually feel it in your back when you bench press, you want to retract your scapula. You want to retract your shoulder blades and pinch them together. This is going to help you keep your scapula in place when you go to bench. Now I know a lot of bodybuilders will say, well, that's a powerlifting move, and it's not just meant for powerlifters. Bodybuilders need to be doing this too. It's really going to help you maximize your strength, and having more strength ultimately leads to more hypertrophic results. So that is why this is a great variation that you want to implement if you are trying to increase your bench press. Once you finally feel ready, a lot of people will assume that they need to move to the Smith machine. Now, I don't recommend benching on the Smith machine, and that is because if you are benching properly, the barbell is actually going to move into a J motion, where the Smith machine doesn't allow you to move it. It goes up in a complete straight line so that you can actually move the barbell into a J motion. So I know that it seems like it would be the next step, but if you're wanting to bench properly, if you're wanting to bench efficiently, I highly recommend that you just avoid trying to bench on the Smith machine. So after you've done most of these exercises, if you feel ready to move towards the bench press, and again, this is for people who don't have anybody there who isn't available to spot you. So if this is you, I honestly recommend starting out by benching in the squat rack. Yeah, you're gonna piss some people off, but the reason I recommend benching in the squat rack is you can bring the risers up to help spot you if you need it when you are benching. As you can see, when I'm going to bench, say you fail and you can't push the weight back up for whatever reason, it's too heavy, you psyched yourself out, and you're just maybe not ready yet. So all you have to do is just let it fall down and it's not gonna crush you, and all you have to do is just slide back out and you're good to go. I would only recommend this if you aren't comfortable asking for someone in the gym to spot you. By all means, if you have some friends in the gym or some regular acquaintances there, don't be afraid to ask for a spot. The majority of people are willing to give you that spot that you need, so by all means ask them, but if not, don't be afraid of going to bench in the squat rack, and this will really help you progress if you're on your own. Alright, lastly, the most scariest lift at all, but it's honestly the most safest, are the deadlifts. So for deadlifts, I hear all the time from people that all you have to do for deadlifts is pretend that you're squatting. It's the same range of motion. Well, it actually isn't. The deadlift is actually a hip hinge movement. So this leads us into variation number 1. This is just simply practicing a hip hinge movement. So many people actually struggle with this. So I honestly recommend for this one, setting up against a bench and practicing your hip hinge. So pretend that you are like literally pushing your pubic bone backwards and you're hinging backwards like that, and then you bend at the knees. Another variation that you can implement are a single leg RDL. The reason that I recommend doing a single leg RDL is because you want to hold on to something. This isn't a balancing act. We're not trying to improve our balance here, although that is a benefit that comes with this because it helps strengthen your core. But by holding on to something, when you go to stand back up, you can actually focus on pressing the floor away from you. And this is going to be the most valuable tool for you to implement if you want to increase your efficiency when it comes to deadlifting. So many people think that this is a pulling movement, and yes, you are pulling the weight off the ground, but in order for you to be efficient with it, in order for you to have power with it and hold your core stable in place, you actually want to pretend that you're pushing the earth away from you. So treating this movement like a leg press, so a pushing movement. So by implementing a single leg RDL, you're really going to focus on practicing pushing the floor away from you on both sides of your legs. So for simplicity purposes, let's just assume that we are doing conventional deadlifts. Sumo deadlifts are a little bit more complex, so I honestly just recommend starting out with conventional deadlifts, and then as you get more confident with them and more comfortable with the range of motion, then maybe explore the sumo deadlift. But for now, let's stick to conventional deadlift. Another variation, once you are ready to actually approach the squat rack, I recommend doing some rack pulls. Now this is just where you put the supporters on the very bottom and have the barbell on top of them, and you basically replicate an RDL with them. But by doing a rack pull, you want to actually have your starting point with the barbell on the supporters. So many people will start their deadlifts at the top and go down and think that they need to start at the top, but actually your deadlift actually starts at the bottom. The next variation I recommend is actually doing the deadlift. Now I don't recommend jumping into a plate on each side, but having a plate on each side is the ideal height that you want to have in order for you to set up properly to do the deadlift. So honestly, all I would recommend doing is bringing the barbell down to the ground, but putting it on top of risers. Putting them on risers is going to give you that height that you need in order to set up properly. You want to make sure that your hips are up and that your scapula is over the bar in order for you to be able to pull the bar up into a straight line. So start out by having the barbell on risers and slowly throwing on some weight. 10 on each side, 15 on each side, 25, 35, and then eventually the 45s. And that really is just going to help you progress, feel more confident, and practice the range of motion. So that's it for how to improve your squat, bench, and deadlift for beginners. At the end of the day, these variation exercises, that's all they are. They're just variation. If you really want to improve, developing your confidence to actually do the actual movement is what's going to allow you to be most efficient in the squat, bench, and deadlift. Practice makes perfect, and the only way to practice is to do the actual exercise itself. So if you're just starting out, start out with some of these variation exercises, give it some time, listen to your body, and don't be afraid to progress. The squat rack really isn't as scary as you think. People are also there to help you out as well, so don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to lift heavy. It's so empowering, especially to women, to be strong and to see yourself progressing. So don't hold yourself back. You'd be surprised how quickly you're able to progress if simply your mindset is there. So I hope this was helpful, you guys. If you have any questions, need some clarifications, or anything like that, just comment down below, you guys. I always look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.